Welcome to Blue Compass, where we're revealing the top things holding your website back. So there's no better tool for marketing your business and telling your story than a website, but there are so many websites out there with great intentions, but they're not getting great results because something is holding their website back. So today I have three of our team members here at Blue Compass, Mallory, Stephanie, and Emily. And the three of you have spent countless hours building websites, monitoring websites, doing digital marketing, and you've all seen so many things over the years that are holding websites back, that are causing companies to not get the results that they really want to on their websites. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Mallory, let's start with you. What is your website pet peeve? What's something that you see hold back an organization's website?
Yes, one of my pet peeves for websites, when I'm reviewing a client website, I want to see a clear call to action. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the main navigation. That definitely should have one, but even within the page copy and the page layout, having a call to action button or a clear next step gives users that opportunity to know what you want them to do on the page. Users need to be guided a little bit through the website, especially if you want them to take a certain course of action. So that's one of my pet peeves for websites.
It reminds me of some of my art classes when I was a student, where they always talk about focal point. There should be a focal point to everything. And I feel like it's kind of the same with websites as well. I mean, if there's no focal point, if it's just a mass of text and you're not really sure what to focus on, sometimes that can be a problem. And we definitely see that holding clients back from getting results when there's just not a clear call to action.
Emily and I were recently on a UX audit together, and one of the problems we noticed with some of the interior pages was website users were confused on where to go next. Like I said, if you aren't giving them that direction or giving a link or a call to action button, they don't know what to do. We saw video recordings of them just, maybe I'll check out the navigation again and see where to go next.
And your website is your launch pad too. So users are going there for information with intent, or they're looking for something. So giving them those clear call to actions is really imperative, because it gives them a clear direction on where to go to find that information. Right. So they're going there for a reason, whether it's to gain more information or they already have a user action in mind. So those clear CTAs are super important, especially from that initial above the fold on your homepage. If there's a main conversion point that you're looking for, that main CTA in your secondary navigation or in your header is really going to guide those users directly to that information or whatever you're trying to push forward at that time.
Yeah. So what's a good example of a clear CTA call to action?
One that was missing on a page that was very clear to me, it was a careers page, and it said, please reach out to us, but had no links, no phone number, no email, and no button to go to the contact page.
Want them to do some work to find it.
Yeah. So those are some clear indicators of, if you want someone to reach out to your company, provide that phone number, or a form on the website is a great way to do that too.
Yeah, I think you never want someone landing on a page and saying, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah.
If they don't know, if you're browsing the website and you're trying to figure out what am I supposed to be doing here? How do I go the next step? If they can't see the next step, then they're gonna leave because they don't know what to do. They've hit a dead end.
Yeah.
And that can become really frustrating too as a user. I mean, we've all experienced it where we go to a site, we're looking for something, and we spend minutes just clicking around looking for that information, and it becomes frustrating as a user because you're there looking for something, or you're looking for more information. You can't find it, so you just give up, and you go to another site and you lose that clientele that goes to potentially another business.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Stephanie, you have opinions.
No.
What's something that is a pet peeve to you when you go to websites, or something you see what hold websites back?
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that is most frustrating is when I land on a page and then I go to another page and another page trying to find what I need, and every page is laid out totally different. Mm-hmm. And there's so much design, and I think I'm clicking in to get to the meat of the page where the information is, and it has just as many visual blocks and graphics as the 2 pages above above in the navigation from it. And so really what that comes down to is there's a lack of hierarchy on the pages. So it's hard to tell what is a main page that you're supposed to browse and explore. And then you get narrowed down, and then you want to read the content. You want there to be words there. But when it's all visual and call outs, it's really hard to know, okay, well, is this it? Like, kind of like going back to what you're saying, like, well, what do I do now? Is this all there is here? And so that is not, it's not fun. I think
that's also a good point if you don't want too many call outs on a page. We've seen pages that have 8 CTA buttons, and that's too much. And like you said, you need that hierarchy.
Yeah,
absolutely. And there is such thing as too much design. It becomes really visually overwhelming as a
like
user.
You're doing too much here.
Yeah,
like,
and it's just like, what do I look at? Do I look at the images? What are the images supporting? What are these logos relevant to? So that content in conjunction with visual assets that support it make it more digestible to the user. Because if we have call out upon call out upon call out, it's like, it's kind of the opposite of no CTA. There are too many CTAs and the user doesn't know what action to take next, which is why content's super important, and laying out just a little blurb of what that CTA is, what it will take you to, and that will really help with the overall flow of that user journey.
This was something that Emily and I were talking about earlier, but when you have all of those call outs, it could be the visual blocks that are on a page, but a lot of times you can't click them.
Yeah.
So they're call outs and they appear to be CTAs, but there is nothing behind them. And that is frustrating too. If it looks like an element that's supposed to be like a box or something slides around and moves and you want to go like, okay, yeah, show me that. And then you can't click it. So I'm sure you've seen that in UX too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, animations are so fun. Design is so much fun, but there can be, again, too much design, and bringing that visual balance between the content and the imagery as well as animations. You want both of those to work together. That's why content strategy is so important, making sure you're auditing your website before you start a website project, because a lot of that will really drive the design, and that design will support the content, really giving a digestible page with that hierarchy. Because the deeper you get into the pages, the more information you're really looking. If you're going into 3rd, 4th level, you're looking for information. You're not looking for visuals at that point. And so making sure that is really laid out in a continuous manner in your site. I had to stop and think about vocabulary there for a second. I was like, that's not a word. Making sure there is that continuity throughout the site is really going to lead to a great user experience overall and a beautiful layout of a website design.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like, again, going back to that whole hierarchy, the other thing is if you have a whole bunch of different layouts that you're using, and so every page is different, again, using too much design, like you're trying to be too fancy or too over designed, it can be really hard as a user looking at the website to be like, this is not where I expected this to be. Well, on this page, it was over here. Now it's at the bottom, or now it's up in the left-hand side. So it's really disorienting, and it can make someone frustrated because they don't know where to look. There isn't that consistency from page to page.
Yeah, inconsistency, big problem. Yeah, you want the design to be somewhat intuitive, of course, but also a little predictable. So it's not a totally new journey. Like your brain has to understand where it is every page you go to. Yeah.
Where I see this a lot on websites is the generic contact us at the bottom of a page. We typically see that carried across the page in the same manner, whether it's at the bottom in a right-hand call out, at the very top, some sort of CTA that is consistently placed across the bottom of the page or that contact is where we see that most consistently placed, is across the bottom of the page. But there are websites where I've seen it where it's up in a right-hand call out, they have it in the middle of the content. And so it can be confusing to a user because there are different CTAs of contact us, whether it be for that specific industry page or that vertical of the business. And for that to be in the same place across the board, whether they're different, will allow the user to know, hey, I'm looking to get in touch for this specific industry. I know at the bottom of every single page, I can go and I can click to call, or I can click and I'll go to that contact form.
I think on that same subject of people knowing and wanting to expect things where they're supposed to be, is a lot of people who aren't web designers have trouble understanding why that's important. And one of the ways that I've heard it described and that I've used, when I'm explaining it to people, is you put a light switch in a certain part of a room for a reason. It's right by the door when you walk in, on the wall right here. Imagine if every room you walked into a new house had a light switch in a different position across the room, up by the ceiling, down by the floor, you'd be confused and you'd be frustrated.
Great example.
That
So
is
I
such
feel
a
like
good example.
it
I
is.
haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
Even if you walk into a house where some older homes have the light switch on the outside of the door, I walk in so confused in the dark, and then I have to go back out and
Yeah.
flip the switch.
And you're just feeling around for the light switch in the room.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily, what is the third thing that you see hold back websites?
Overall, content and asset planning is a really huge thing. We get into the design phase and clients are really focused on that design, but they don't think about the assets, PDFs, imagery, content from their existing website, regardless if they're going to carry over the existing content or develop new content. It's so important that they're taking a look at what they have. Are they going to revamp it? Are we going to carry it over? Do we need new imagery? Do we need to evaluate our content strategy? And looking at that in conjunction with the design that they're developing. Because if you don't have the content to fit the design, as Stephanie mentioned, your site is going to look really anemic and it's going to look like you don't have the necessary information that folks are looking for when they come to your site. So creating that balance before you get into the design, because you can always tailor the design to fit the content. It's harder to develop more content that's quality to fit the design.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like building a house, but and putting so much time and effort into the house itself, the structure, but not really planning for any furniture or appliances or electricity or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like building a giant living room with an open floor plan and a kitchen, but not thinking, oh, I'm going to need an 18-person sectional to fill out this living room. It's really tough. So you can't shrink that space. So you have to find more things to fill it with. And then you have all this furniture that maybe you necessarily don't like. It doesn't fit the room. It doesn't create that cohesiveness from a branding or hierarchical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And like Emily mentioned before, content architecture and content audits are something we really love to do when we get into a website, because a lot of times we get in there and clients are like, oh, I didn't know that page existed. Or we look at the number of words on a page. And if your pages have less than 300 words, let's combine those. Can that content fit somewhere else on the website? And I'd be, remiss to not mention from an SEO perspective, we want to make sure that you're meeting that minimum of, 700-800 words is really what we would recommend in order for Google to start ranking that page and making sure that you have that quality content. A lot of times things can be combined, or we'll do an SEO deep dive and make sure that it is going to rank for traffic and really put together some great content for a page.
Mm-hmm. And
go ahead, Steph.
I was just going to say it from like the imagery standpoint as well. I've seen this go both ways. I've seen websites where people have said, hey, I want our website to look like this. It looks so good. It's so well designed. And I can look at that website and know it's actually not that well designed. Mm-hmm. The only thing that is making that website stand apart is beautiful photography.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And so it's like, well, you don't want to create this amazing website design and then put your photos on it that you've had for 15 years that were shot in the dark before you could even, they're like fuzzy and your stuff's far away. And so it can do, like, imagery can make or break a website. And it really is sad to see, a company announce that they have a great new website, and then you go look at it and the photos are the same as before, and that creates the whole feel.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they have old, like, stock photos that everyone's seen before. It's not a great experience either.
Yeah.
You want your content and the visuals supporting it to be a representation of your brand story. That is really what's going to bolster and also resonate with the user viewing the content. Because if you create relatability, that is what's going to make a user want to scroll more, want to learn more about the company, and ultimately lead to that user potentially becoming a client or converting in some manner. That is really, really, really helpful, because that personability that you're offering just through a good balance and user experience is really going to make a whole world of difference.
And at the same time, if you have photos but they're all like totally a different style, that can be just as bad as having a million different page layouts, because you need to have everything like, what's your brand vibe? What does it feel like? Is it warm and cozy? Is it, innovative and dark? There's all these different styles you can have, but if you intermix those types of photos throughout the website, that can be just as jarring of an experience for people to not understand what your vibe is as brand.
Yeah, and especially when you're viewing design inspiration, if you're looking at other sites for inspiration, thinking, how does this fit our brand? Do we have the capabilities to develop imagery like this? If we don't, what can we put in place to still create that brand messaging and support the content visually without a ton of imagery? So there are different alternatives of, I've seen clients look at these beautiful full spread websites with these awesome header videos, but they just don't have the capability, or maybe they don't have the time to collaborate with a videographer to produce that asset. And so they really want this and we design it, but in the long run, they don't have the asset to fill that space. And it really makes the design fall short and the copy in correlation with it, because the design was built around it to support all of that messaging.
Okay, we have time for one more. Stephanie, do you have one more website pet peeve to share with us?
I do, and it's a little bit different than everything else that we've talked about here so far, and so that's why it didn't fit in, but broken links. So I have seen companies announce that they have a new website and they'll put it on LinkedIn or Facebook or something, and I go to click and I'm like, oh cool, I want to see their new website, and I just keep landing in 404s. And this happened with a public website that we all unfortunately have to deal with, which is the pay your parking ticket website.
I can't imagine you got one of those.
No, I didn't get one of those.
Right.
But it was like the general informational one, and I went to it and everything was in the copy as a hyperlink to get to like how far I needed to get to figure it out, and every page kept landing in a 404. And I was so frustrated because the site was better, it looked better, it ran faster, like it was a nice new site, but then that one area of like technical SEO, planning for the redirect strategy, was clearly overlooked. And so it just made all of the other cool stuff kind of fall flat and not as beneficial.
Yeah, we definitely see that when you launch a new website. A lot of times we forget that there's all these old URLs that exist, and there's other websites that we're linking to them, and there's social media posts that we're linking to them, and Google has everything indexed. And so it really throws things off when you do launch a new website with new URLs. So that's why we always try to take our clients through a really comprehensive redirect process to ensure that we don't miss any of those. Mallory, Stephanie, Emily, thank you so much. We appreciate your expertise. That was really fantastic. And if we can help you with your website, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We design and develop and market great websites all the time. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.